What's going on, everybody? My name is Tenebris Infinite, and welcome to episode 11 of my Let's Play. For today's episode, we're going to be going off and taking down 64 frickin' rivals, my dudes. We're doing the big rival grind for episode 11, and this is actually going to be the send-off for my engineer before we move into what I'm calling Chapter 2 of my Let's Play. So, for Chapter 2, I've got a pretty spicy idea that I've actually talked about in the past, but if you don't know what my idea is for Chapter 2, you're gonna have to stay tuned to find out with the next episode. But for this episode, as I said, we're going to be taking down the maximum amount of rivals that you can have in your game. And I've actually wanted to do something like this for a while, where I include some of my testing into a Let's Play episode. So the main thing that we're going to be actually testing today is how the rival loot pool is nowadays. How often and frequently you'll get schematics, whether or not tiers of machines actually impact or matter for the schematics you'll get or the quantity of schematics you'll get, and just some general run-of-the-mill testing. So with that out of the way, let's just get this episode started here. So we're using a really simple loadout here. We're just using two guns, and it's basically what I'm calling the meta loadout for Generation Zero. It's the two heaviest hitting guns in the game. It's one of the guns with, I think it's like the third highest rounds per minute in the game, and then the PVG, which is just like the go-to gun in Generation Zero. Now, normally I'd try to spice up my loadout in a way, but for this episode, because it's just a rival grind, I'm not looking to have fun with this combat. I'm just aiming to take out these rivals as quickly as I possibly can. Now with the sun finally rising, we can actually get to our rival grind. In all honesty, I'm kind of expecting crap loot from all of these prototype rivals, but, you can't help but hope that you're gonna get something lucky. So we've got 4 of our archipelago rivals left. So I think through some fancy video editing, we're going to kill all 4 of these dudes at the same time and hopefully get something from it. And our 5th rival seems to have wandered off into the farmlands. So luckily enough, that's going to be the next region that we go to. So, there you go, we've got one more rival left from the archipelago, and he's just off in the farmlands. And I think for the rest of the rival kills, we're going to kind of keep things grouped to each select group. So, first off, we're going to run through all of the prototypes that I have on my map, then all of the military machines, then all of the Phoenix, then all of the Apocalypse machines. It should keep things a little bit more organized as I go through the video here. But I thought it was pretty awesome that we managed to find some bulletproof shoes, and also we managed to find ourselves an experimental capist just off the archipelago alone. So from that round of prototype machines, we managed to get ourselves 2 pieces of experimental clothing, 3 schematics, and 4 experimental weapons. At the end, we're going to kind of break down a little bit more details about the drops and certain factors like the level and stuff like that. But for now, that's not too bad from prototype machines, you know? A fair few of those were max level, yeah, I think it's a pretty good turnout so far. Next up, we've got the military machines, and I think that we're going to see quite a few more drops from those dudes. So there we go, my dudes. We've taken down all of the prototype rivals and all of the military rivals in my map. And, this is getting very costly on my ammo supply. I definitely thought that my almost 10,000 bullets for 762 and 1,500 BMG rounds would have done a lot of good and would have lasted a little bit longer, but it seems like I'm gonna have to go off on a farming session at least for the 762. In terms of loot, though, it's kind of been rough from the military machines. I think that RNGesus was not so much on my side this time. We got ourselves one experimental weapon, two clothing schematics, and then I think like 5 pieces of experimental clothing or something like that, if my memory serves correct. I'm gonna have to check over my footage at the end, but yeah, RNGesus could have been a little bit nicer. One quick night of restocking later, and with dawn just breaking, it's time to go off and take out the rest of the Phoenix machines, and I think we're just gonna fly through these Phoenix machines and then talk about the results after. So, my dudes, we finally got the fat loot. We got ourselves 5 weapons, 3 sets of experimental clothing, and 2 clothing schematics. Honestly, for me, it would have been nicer to get a little bit more schematics along the way, but in all honesty, this is just a test of the RNG and just looking at what the loot pool kind of behaves like. So now that we've done the madness of taking down all of the Phoenix machines, it's time to do the big challenge here. And we're going to go off and take down all of my Apoco rivals on the map. So, wish me luck, my dudes. And so from the Apoco rivals, we managed to get ourselves 4 sets of experimental clothing and 3 sets of clothing schematics, but 0 experimental weapons. And I'm honestly kind of glad that I didn't get some sort of god RNG throughout this rival grind here, because it really shows that, like, sometimes the RNG will really be in your favor and you'll get a butt ton of friggin' experimental weapons and a crap ton of clothing schematics and stuff. But also sometimes you'll get nothing, and I think that that is kind of part of the RNG role of Rivals that has kept Rivals interesting for so long now. Now, I know on one hand it is pretty frustrating to grind up a rival, kill it, and then get nothing, but that also kind of allows you to repeat the cycle. If we were just getting absolutely everything from every single rival, then I don't think that Rivals would be anywhere as close to half as interesting as they actually are as a gameplay feature. So, in total, from this massive rival grind of 64 rivals, we managed to get ourselves 14 pieces of experimental clothing, 10 clothing schematics, and 10 experimental weapons. All in all, I would say that looking over it, the experimental drops and the rival drops are incredibly well balanced nowadays. It's really balanced so that way you don't feel like you are completely wasting your time when you're taking down prototype machines, but you will also be driven to take down the higher tiers of machines. We got 34 drops from 64 rivals, so that means that, like, at least 50% of the time you're actually going to get something at least from a rival. It might not always be the thing you need, but you're always going to get something at least. And for clothing schematics, this is just general observation, so don't take it as fact, but it did almost seem like I was getting clothing schematics that I didn't have specifically. I didn't get a single repeat clothing schematic the entire time. Of course, I'm going to have to wait until I've got all of the clothing schematics to see if they continue dropping after that point, or when I've got most of the clothing schematics in order to really fully understand whether or not the clothing schematics have, like, a saving grace kind of feature where it won't give you duplicates. The only reason why I kind of think that that might be a thing here in Generation Zero is just because that is a big complaint about experimental weapons and experimental clothing drops as a main source of feedback about the rivals in the first place, was that duplicate and repeat items were really underwhelming to get. And with the clothing schematics kind of taking up a new tier of item, a new class type of items, it just makes Tenebris curious, that's all. So in the future, when I do have all of my clothing schematics, I'll either make a community post about it, or I'll make maybe a short video or something where I talk about whether or not there are duplicate clothing schematics, or if it has this saving grace kind of feature. But admittedly, that might be a while off because your boy is tired of grinding rivals. This has been a massive effort, and is part of the reason why this episode took a while to get out. And then on top of that, I've got a whole other bag of beans that I've been working on content-wise for you dudes. Yeah, doing a massive 64 rival grind is definitely time-consuming, to say the least. But there we go, my dudes. That draws to a close the end of Chapter 1, and what a wild ride it's been, my dudes. You guys have seen me start this all up and get an early preview of Phoenix Rising. One of the first times I've ever gotten an early preview of a DLC or a video game on my channel. And you guys have seen me go through all of Alpine Unrest, completely deathless, take down all of the bunkers in the main story, with only just a few deaths along the way, and so much more. It honestly has been really awesome, and I didn't think that I would have as much fun putting together a Let's Play as I have. So, and part of that goes towards you dudes. Thank you so much for all of your kind words and all of your support throughout Chapter 1 here. Hopefully you dudes are stoked to see what I've got cooking for Chapter 2. Trust me, it's going to be even more spicy than the first chapter. But for now, I've been Tenebris. You've been awesome. Thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Until then, peace.